The Tight Five.
5 separate sporting topics, roughly a minute or so on each when the buzz goes. Well, the bell, that is, dings. We go on to the next topic. The Warriors season is officially over. You got a hell of a stat here for us, Lachlan. Shaun Stevenson to the Warriors. You heard those rumours? I'm not so sure that he moves the needle in any which way direction that they want. Is it over for Israel Adesanya? Brendan Bradford's going to join us at 2:45. He was courtside yesterday in Perth watching those fights. Man City's title again. Can the All Blacks win over in South Africa? We've answered that question. And Hayden Wilde lost to Yee again. And Lee does this crossed arm celebration as he crosses the line 30 seconds in front of him, and Wilde's all peeved about that. All right, give me the Warriors stat, pal, because the Warriors season officially ended when St. George won. What's the stat that I need to hear?
It is spectacular. So, there's been a lot of talk about 2024 being the year the Warriors take another step towards hopefully a premiership at some point. Top 4 side, great year last year, let's back it up. And even though the season started off with 2 losses, there's been some promising moments. I remember ahead of the Melbourne game, we're back 3 in a row, blah, 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 beat Penrith, all this.
All of that.
We have had 24 rounds in the NRL so far this season, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Warriors have been inside the top 8 at the end of the round only twice this year out of 24.
Is that it?
That's it. So the Warriors have only been inside the top 8 after a round twice out of 24 rounds this year. That there tells you, if anything, actually, that tells you the season's been a lot worse than you'd probably realise. Only twice. Parramatta have had more rounds inside the top 8.
What?
3. The Warriors have only had 2. The Tigers have been inside there once. The Knights have been inside there twice. Even like the Broncos have been inside the 8 about 7 or 8 times, I think.
Hey, here's the other stat for you.
Go on.
Last 9 games. What's the Warriors' record?
Gosh, I've got to guess. Okay, can I go back? Okay, I'll guess. They haven't got a draw on there. I'm going to say 2-7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, we talked about 2 years ago, dumping all those games at the end of the season with Stacey Jones would be sitting there going, these guys can't be asked, they don't want to try, they're not playing for the jersey. The year before that, lost 7 games in a row to end the season. So apart from the outlier that was last year, tell me what is different. I'm going to ask Tony this in a few minutes. What is actually different? Apart from a whole lot of hoo-ha and hot air, what is actually different about the Warriors this year? Shaun Stevenson to the Warriors. I think that this is one of them stories that his agent puts about to try and get a better contract with rugby. I just don't see why he would do this. And as far as the Warriors are concerned, he wouldn't come under the salary cap, sure. But at the same time, do they need another winger? Yeah, quite possibly. Is he a guy that's going to make a huge difference? He's a good finisher. He's got a pretty good boot on him. Probably plays better at fullback in rugby, to be perfectly honest. But if you're going to put him on the wing, I think he'd score some tries. But is he a needle mover?
No, he's not. He's a brilliant ball runner. He's got a good boot, but if you went to rugby league, you wouldn't worry about the kicking game.
No, you wouldn't. No, it's not.
Unless he's in the halves, which he won't be in the halves. So, it's an interesting one. It's a name-ish, if that makes sense. So it's not like you're bringing in a nobody. So it would create discussion and interest. But you've got to be honest with yourselves. If you're Cameron George, especially if you're Andrew Webster, you've got to say, Andrew Webster, I've no doubt, is a good coach. But whatever success you had last year, you're now back to square one.
Yeah, exactly right. Back to square one.
So if you're back to square one, based on last year and the success that you had, there's obviously more of an expectation around the job that you can do for this team, or the job you should be doing. If that's the case, you've got to put together the roster, the best possible roster, to not contend for a premiership, but to contend for a spot in the top 4. And Shaun Stevenson might cost a bit of money to pry him away from rugby. So are you willing to spend that money, soak up your cap on him when there could be a middle forward or an athletic second row that I think you need more so out there that would be better money spent? So, and this is what I thought with the Ngani Laumapi thing. I genuinely thought this was the case with Roger at the end of last year, but it didn't seem as potentially negative because the Warriors are coming off a really good 2023. It's all well and fine to sign these players that are names and create talk and interest, but you've got to be honest with yourselves that they actually help your increase your hopes of getting into the top four.
This is all I think about. Is this guy going to win us a premiership?
Well, okay, let's be honest. Are the Warriors going to win a premiership anytime soon? No, they're not.
No, they're not.
There's probably only 3 or 4 teams in the comp that can sit there and say we can or should be winning a premiership soon. The Warriors are not one of them. Has
it been 1 step forward, 2 steps back for the Warriors?
It's been 0 steps forward.
Well, last year was a huge step forward.
Well, if you're including last year, yeah.
Is it over for Israel Adesanya? 35 years old. He's lost 3 out of his last 4 fights.
I would guess that based on his age, his recent record. We said a similar thing about Joseph Parker, and as much as they're different sports, they're still combat sports.
That's right. But Joseph came back against Deontay Wilder.
Yeah.
Adesanya has got a hell of a lot to prove now because he's looked sluggish in the last 2 fights. And even though he says he felt good and all of that kind of stuff, he just hasn't looked good. He doesn't look as sharp as he once did. Brendan Bradford was right ringside yesterday for that fight. And you can argue with this if you like, but I just expected more of him. And he looked as though he was getting into that fight, but when he's won, he's been really dominant. And the thing about him is he never used to get hit. It was almost impossible to get to him because of his reach and his kicking. And these guys, we saw Strickland do it last year, and we saw Duplessis do it, and Pereira the first time, but he came back brilliantly in that second fight. But the last 2 fights, he just I don't know. I just wonder the toll that it takes preparing for these fights, the training you got to go through, the emotional high, the up and down, all of that. You know, he's fought 12 times in a row now for title fights. Okay, well, that's a clumsy way of saying it, but every fight, it's not like he's actually, it's meaningful. It's either to win the belt or to retain the belt or to lose the belt. So it's actually, it's a huge big deal. He's made a crap load of money out of this. He's been very vocal about the fact that he has made a crap load of money, and I just wonder whether or not there's a time for everyone to call time, and whether it's time for him.
He unified the division. He unified the division and then dominated it to such an extent that he then went, okay, I'm going to have a crack at light heavyweight.
Yeah, which is a mistake.
Didn't go to plan.
No, they didn't go to plan.
No, and he shouldn't have done that. And then had the belt for a couple of more fights, lost it, and then got it back. And he's been competing in the UFC at a high level for 6 years, which is a long time when you look at what they put their bodies through. It's different to boxing, I would think. It's far more taxing on your body than boxing, wouldn't it?
Well, he's been averaging about 3 or 4 fights a year, which is a hell of a lot.
And this is the first time he fought since last November? No, just September, sorry?
September it was, yeah.
So 11 months, which is a pretty...
He took 11-month break.
A long break. So I think he's behind the 8 ball in terms of the competitors. And I'm not a UFC expert, but at least from what I've noticed. So I would think... But he won't step away. He won't do it.
I think he's got one more big money spinner left in him, I reckon. So,
which is the reason why a lot of these combat sport athletes, if you will, stick around because of the paydays.
Yeah, absolutely. Expert opinion, though, from Brendan Bradford coming in about half an hour. Man City's title again. God, they cruised against Chelsea. They just cruised it. Second gear.
I found another brilliant clip, and it's actually from a couple of years ago from Mikel Arteta, just the most superb, motivating tool. We talked a lot about how he got pickpocketers to try and keep his players on alert last week. There was one where he had a light bulb that was switched off, and he said, I want you guys to be connected. And then he screws it into a cord and it turns on. See what happens when you're connected? So Arsenal aren't winning it. You guys aren't winning it.
No.
I don't think we're winning it. We looked good in the second half. Yeah. I thought we looked all right, but we won't win it. There's no way. And so City. Chelsea are a basket case.
Yeah.
Spurs don't have the squad and probably don't have the manager to win a league. And they've never. When's the last time Spurs won the top division?
1961.
So it's going to be Man City.
Can the All Blacks beat SA over there? Yeah, we can.
We can.
I think we can.
Will we?
Though? That's the question. We can't answer that till we get there. And Hayden Wilde loses to Yee again. He got overtaken the last 30 seconds of the run. This sounds familiar, doesn't it? He's not happy with the way that Yee celebrated in Boston. The reason
is he? Is he not happy, or is that just an angle that the mass media here picked up on? Because there's footage of it. Yee's got his arms folded as he's crossing the line, and Hayden Wilde kind of has an expression on his face. Which obviously
maybe he's just not happy about coming second again.
Yeah, probably. Because they're good mates.
The reason that I brought this up, though, is that, as the All Blacks rest for 4 days, these guys are straight back into it after the Olympics.
Yeah.
And as our players get rested and rotated because they play too much rugby, I know that it's a combat sport, playing rugby, it's a physical sport and all of that. But I'm always amazed, just like after the Commonwealth Games, that these guys, it doesn't stop for them, does
No.
it? He's got another race in Chicago, Hayden Wild,
In
and
a week,
another.
yeah.
So
It's like Hamish Kerr, who's 2 weeks after winning gold, he's going to be competing. That's probably a week from now, right?
It was like when we had Aaron Gate on the show last year. And we were laughing about him being what? He was in the the French Alps or something. No, I'm training. I'm actually on a road race, you dickheads. You know?
Yeah, it was in 2022 after he'd won 4 golds at the Common Games.
Yeah.